Your support helps us bring you programs you love. Go to wyomingpbs.org, click on Support, and become a sustaining member or an annual member. It's easy and secure. Thank you.
Founded in 2013, Brewista is setting the standard for global innovation in the specialty coffee and tea industries. And the company is bringing manufacturing jobs from Asia, as well as expanding its engineering, sales, and customer service teams in its headquarters right here in Wyoming. We're in the Brewista kitchen with company president Brian Gross, next on Wyoming Chronicle.
Funding for this program was provided in part by the Wyoming Public Television Endowment and viewers like you.
Funding for Wyoming Chronicle is provided in part by the Dragicevich Foundation, supporting the work of the Wyoming State Parks.
We've had an opportunity to see a little bit of Brewista, and now we're with the company's president, Brian Gross. Brian, welcome to Wyoming Chronicle.
Thank you very much. I appreciate the opportunity.
What is Brewista?
Brewista is an intellectual property development company who produces products for the specialty coffee and tea industry worldwide. And we say IP because really we drive our value with intellectual property development, which is mostly done in the United States, and greatest part of that is done here in Cheyenne, Wyoming.
And Brian, give us a little bit of your history.
Well, I've been involved with product design and development since the 80s. I had my own product design and development company in Northern California for 12 years, doing medical device development, doing RV aftermarket products, automotive aftermarket, and consumer products. And I did that for 12 years, and for the RV industry, I was doing metal stamping and injection molding products, but they would ask me to do it domestically, but then secondary sourcing into China. So I was going back and forth to China from the late 80s. But continuing to grow in the United States. I was to a point where I was bringing a ton of molds, injection molding back to the United States, automating it, and being barely competitive, but then California deregulated their electricity market without the pricing part, so my products costs went way through the roof, and so I ended up selling the injection molding part, moved outside of Seattle, still doing product design and development, but kept getting called back to China. So in 2003, we ended up moving to China, my wife and myself, to be closer to our contacts over there, and was there for over 5 years.
But you've now migrated, I guess you could say, to the coffee industry.
Well, I was doing some consumer products work, but when I was working in China, I got involved with a company called WIK, which had been in China for many years, German company, makes a lot of different appliances, and I got involved with the Nespresso project, which was bringing the Nespresso coffee makers from Eastern Europe to China, and also made other coffee equipment. And this was a great side job. I learned quite a lot about the coffee industry, and I was doing RV work, and so I was making barbecues. So we're living in China. We have a small little tiny house with a lot of neighbors, and I brought a barbecue home, and then started doing what typical Americans do, having barbecues and inviting the neighbors. And one of the partners or neighbors was a guy named Stephen Koo, and he and I got together and we started doing a lot of work together, and he had a company that wanted to sell directly to Walmart. So they needed the Bizaren, which is a Chinese for a big-nosed person, to be the face for this presentation to Walmart. And we ended up...
This was a coffee product?
It was coffee makers and tea kettles, and we ended up becoming the Walmart's single source for coffee and tea makers for about 6 years. First time Walmart had ever given a single product category to one company. But we're an engineering-based company. We're very transparent, and it was all about efficiencies and environmental social auditing and doing things at the highest level. And Walmart had never worked with a partner company like that who was especially as transparent as we were. And we kept that relationship going for over 7 years, and we still continue to make products through one of our factories for them.
But now we're here in Cheyenne. When did Brewista start in Cheyenne?
Brewista started in Cheyenne in 2013. We knew we could not survive by just producing product for Walmart. We knew we had to produce our own product name. So in 2010, I saw an article in Cook's Illustrated magazine mentioning there was only 2 coffee makers that were SCAA certified. SCAA is Specialty Coffee Maker Association of America, and it's basically physics. Time, temperature, turbulence, and loading are the 4 factors it takes to make a good cup of coffee. And I was telling the team, look, we're making 1 out of every 6 coffee makers made in the United States, 1 out of every 4 kettles. Let's see if we can meet this challenge and come up with one. So I came up with a coffee maker, and we came up with the brand name Bonavita, and I went to the Specialty Coffee Show in April 2011 in Houston and realized we'd found a blue ocean, a great market, a great place to sell product, but they were really lacking in innovation and the costing was terrible. So we ended up producing a whole product line for them to introduce the product under the Bonavita name, and the first container came in at the end of December, and we were able to build that product line up to almost $3 million sales in 4 months. And that was with calling Bonavita, which went to an internet line, and you might call you back in a week. So we had 6 other divisions. If you wanted to buy from Bonavita, you had to wire to a company called Smartco International in Hong Kong. So we put all these barriers up for our customers, and there was such a strong demand and need that we knew that we were in the right path. And so we ended up partnering with another company called Espresso Supply, which we still partner with today, to help us sell and promote the Bonavita line worldwide. And with that, we saw continued growth, but we came up with so many new products that we saw an opportunity in the marketplace that they couldn't absorb. So we decided to create a second company called Brewista under a new brand name. At the same time, we were seeing manufacturing costs in China go up. And we knew there was a lot that we manufacture in central southern China, Taiwan, and Thailand. So we were looking to move a lot of the manufacturing to Thailand. But the more we looked at it, we were seeing that the fact that America by 2018, 2020 would be competitive with China, mostly by energy cost and throughout automation, and the fact that we own our own brand name. So I moved back to the United States in 2008, started working with Metro State University to develop new product lines for both of the Bonavita and the Brewista line. But the goal was to bring more manufacturing here. This was during the oil boom, and I was living in Colorado and trying to find 10,000 square foot or any even interest to get a building for manufacturing was very hard. And my CFO of many years suggested that, I'm only 49 miles from the border, why not Cheyenne? And I first poo-pooed it, but then the more we looked into research it, we realized it was an amazing opportunity. And I got stuck in an airplane coming out of Tampa, and I ended up sitting next to this very dignified person and got talking, and there was some problems with the airplane, and we ended up, about half the airplane had to get off, and it turns out it was Frank and Sonny magazine, and I ended up talking to them all the way back from Tampa about what a great place it is to do the work, to live and work here. About a week later, I was back in China, and I sent an email about 10:15 at night, Cheyenne time, asking about interest in this thing, and Derek Jeter with Leeds Group within 10 minutes.
Leeds is an economic development group here in Cheyenne.
Yes, and they said right away, whatever we can do, you tell me what I know. And that was amazing to me because this is a place that is so pro-business friendly, and that started the process of finding a place here.
So you're finding then that you can actually bring jobs from Asia here and remain competitive.
Yes.
Is that actually what's turned out to be the case?
Oh yes, oh yes. One of the things people don't realize is our energy boom has been amazing. All the plastics, ethanols, the ethanes from plastic come from natural gas. So all up and down the Mississippi River, there are reopening plastic parts. So our plastic costs are about 20% less than China. Our energy costs are about 40% less than in China. So I have a very large product that I originally injection molded in China, is now being made in Iowa. My injection molding costs are $8 less than in China. Plus, I don't have to put it in a container and ship over here. So literally, I can order smaller batches, have them delivered in 3 days. The supply chain is much better. And if it's made in USA, since we do specialty coffee in over 70 countries, the perceived value is much higher.
Have you been able to find the employees that you need here in Wyoming?
So far, yes, but we've also been very active in working with LCCC to put together a manufacturing skills project with us and several other manufacturers, 13 other manufacturers. So we find the base employees, but for the higher skill sets, we're going to have to train and learn.
You have quite a relationship with Metro State and now
Denver University. Yes.
Tell us about that.
Well, Metro State is one of the top 6 industrial design programs in the country, and started working with them to come up with some new product design and development ideas. We've done 9 projects now through the school. I've got 6 of the graduate students, graduated students working for us, either part-time or consulting or full-time. All these products, almost every one has been patented, and so we get to make sure the students get their names in the patents and trademarks. And now with Denver University, they have the mechanical engineering group, the electrical engineering group, and product design, so we can do complete products. Whereas in Metro State, it was really a concept and ideas that we had to bring and do a lot more work to bring into market. This allows us to do a longer project, but a more complete product.
So in Wyoming then too, are there impediments to the growth that you envision for Brewista, Brian?
Honestly, the limitation is up to us. It's really a vision we have. But I think if we approach it knowing that there's strengths and weaknesses everywhere we go, I don't see any.
Give us an overlay of where you are now and where you want to go here in Cheyenne.
Well, we've been working with product design development, that's a big one, and slowly bringing original manufacturing, and we built up a whole new marketing channel. We were selling through a company called Brew Global, which is we owned, and it was a different multi-level distribution market. We've limited that. We flattened our distribution. We're able to lower our cost and do a lot more selling direct. We've got our paper line with our clean room, Class 8 clean room, up and running, so we're going to do a lot more consumables, and then we're going to be, the big project for us in this coming year and early next year is to start making coffee makers, tea kettles, and scales here in the United States. Both components from the United States as well as from China imported in and bringing added value with that. And in cellular manufacturing, so much of what we do is customization, whether it's custom colors, custom nesting, custom assembly. So by being able to bring in the United States, we can have much shorter lead times, much greater customization, and be able to focus products more uniquely to each of our customers.
So how many employees will you have here in Cheyenne?
We're going to probably end up with about 90 in 3 shifts. That's the goal. We got about 15 now, 15, 16, but most of them are the higher end engineering types.
So give us an idea of what has really worked for Brewista, and where do you see Brewista going?
Brewista, speed to market, listening to what the customers want. We do about 26 trade shows internationally every year.
And you work both with consumers and commercial
Yes,
customers.
Exactly. And the advantage of the customer base that we have is that they are very vocal on their needs. So if you're listening to them, you can adapt very quickly. And there's no such thing as a perfect product. So you come up with a product and you might miss 1 or 2 things. And those are our best customers. And to be able to optimize and update and give them exactly what they want and customize. That's worked great. The design, development, we're the most creative people in the world. And I get to work all around the world with engineers from all around the world, not just Asia, Europe, everywhere. And countries like Switzerland and Germany train great engineers, and they start from a very early age. They go 2 different tracks. One is either professional or one is trade, tech. But even the mechanical engineers, design engineers start in the machine shops. They know all the basics and go forward. But it has a tendency to really stifle and to compress their creativity and innovation. So they think very, very linearly. And like a company like Germany, industrial design is a religion. A spoon can't just be a spoon. It's got to do 4 or 5 other things, or it's not a proper spoon.
What's been amazing to me, Brian, in the time that we spent with you the last couple of days, is the way you innovate. You're not afraid to fail, and you have energy almost unlike anyone I've ever seen.
Well, I mean, failure is part of any kind of design. We talk about the nut milk machine that we did with Metro State. It was first 2 semester projects. We had a concept, and then we kind of figured out how we could do that. But then we failed 1,800 bad times before we got to where we were good. I had no idea how hard it was going to be, because after the product got finished, we created a whole new product category, nut and seed processor. And I had people who do millstone and grinding say it's impossible to do what you're doing without giant millstones crushing and breaking down the nuts or seeds at a cellular level. We just weren't smart enough to know we couldn't do it. And we just kept trying and trying. And all the innovations and iterations of the wipers, blades, motors, just constantly trying, both here and in China, back and forth, sending massive video files daily to what we did, the experiments they did here. We reviewed that and made our changes, fed back to them. And doing the prototypes there, doing the prototypes here, that's what we live for. It's a lot of fun.
Brian, we're now in the Brewista kitchen.
Part of our culture, because of the Asian culture, is that we feed, clothe, house, and transport. over there. So part of our culture that we brought over here is that we give everybody breakfast and lunch. So we have a
Your employees.
Employees, yes, well, the family, team members. And so we have a list, and I barbecue once a week. Usually on Monday is Manly Meat Monday, where I do the barbecues and smoke the ribs and all that. And we all test a lot of our products here. We do a lot of our videos here, whether it's the Nutrimilk, the coffee makers, pretty much all this equipment you see on the counter, minus the grinder, are all the products that we make, the scales. So we do a lot of testing and design development in this kitchen. So this is our Nutrimilk machine. This is the two-semester collaboration with Metro State University, and then from there to take the concept and then another year and a half to develop a functional product. It's the only product in the market that can take raw nuts or seeds and create nut butter, and we can either stop at that point or we can add liquid and create nut milks. So part of the uniqueness of it is we're breaking these nuts down at a cellular level, and so the amount of nutrients that are in this milk are much higher. You buy commercial nut milks, they're about 2 to 2.5% nuts. We're 18 to 22%. And it's, besides being fast to make and highly nutritious, this is one of the blends I drink every day, which is a cashew almond, or almond cashew. It's great for frothing and using in a coffee shop. So originally it was designed for the coffee shop industry, make 10 or 15 gallons a day of nut milk. But once we came out with it, we actually went to Kickstarter and we realized it was so much bigger than just our industry now. So we actually created a separate company to do the marketing and sales of this, and they're based out of LA. And so I've got 2 cups of almonds, 1 cup of cashew, and any raw nut or seed. That's the unique part. Any machine can make butter with roasted because you've already broken the cell walls. This is actually the only machine that can process seeds. And International Houseware Show now has a nut and seed processor category for a brand new appliance category. So adding the nuts, there's a blade down there. I've got a wiper. You'll see why this is needed. And then a lot of safety. This is commercial rated worldwide. So I'm going to put it on the butter side. Every moisture content level of the nuts and softness and the fiber level have a big difference in it. I'm going to put it down to 12 to start and then hit start. So if you're making nut flour, you can stop this early and you can easily make very inexpensive nut flour. I'm going to go ahead and stop it now. I've got to the butter stage I needed to. Like I mentioned before, it's all varies depending on the moisture content, the types of nuts, the cellular, and I'm going to let you guys taste this because you guys will not believe what I've just produced from raw nuts. And I've had people argue with me that I put sugar in it somewhere along the way, and I haven't. It's just...
it is sweeter than I expected.
If I give you one of the raw nuts side by side, you won't believe how much sugar's been released. So now, I could stop. I could use this as a butter or spread. I could add dates. I could add a vanilla. I could do whatever I wanted here, but I'm just going to make you plain milk. So I'm adding just water. And then we're going to emulsify it and let all the oils in emulsification. Usually do 3 minutes. I'm going to hit the mix and I'm going to go full. And I'm going to start it. You see the emulsified oil on the top? That's when you froth it, it's delicious. So I like to, when the 2 levels become the same, it seems like the back pressure on the outside pushes and helps the screen filter better. And you can see on the inside, you see all the skin floating around?
I see something floating around.
Yeah, that's the skins, that's the dark. And you see on the one side and the other. So once those 2 levels match, then I'll start to drain. Okay, I'm going to open it up. There you go. And I'll actually let you have a little sip of that.
I've never had nut milk in my life.
Really?
Nope.
It's the #1
until now.
It's the #1 growth protein sources in the world. They had a World's Protein Summit, and that was the #1 growth right now.
That's tasty. That's
nutritional,
tasty.
very nutritional,
Yeah.
very nutritional,
Very good.
and it's healthy. I have lactose intolerance. It's just good for you. Low glycemic, so if you have a diabetic or something like that, your blood level won't spike. This is a great thing to start with every day.
When we first met a few months ago, Brian, you were talking about tort reform as being something that could be handled differently, not only in Wyoming, but in the United States, that would positively affect your company. Is that still the case?
Yes, definitely. Actually, that was probably the #1 thing that we analyzed and really fretted over before coming here. Anywhere in the world, if there's a problem and I get sued, and I'm not responsible for it. And trust me, if we ever make a mistake, if we're responsible, we always stand up. But anywhere in the world, I get my costs back. Whenever there's a house fire in the United States, they sue the coffee maker guy, they sue the microwave guy, they sue the toaster oven guy. There's 5 things they go after every time. And when I have to defend myself against that, I have to pay my insurance company to investigate. It's $20,000, $30,000. Not one time it has been our fault, but I have to eat that cost. There's no kickback if I get accused of something and defend myself and they're wrong. Canada, a friend, a very good company that we do work with, they had in Canada, they have this, and so they had a fire in the person's toaster, and turns out at trial that they had never emptied the crumbs out. So that person got nothing, plus had to pay the manufacturer's full cost to reimburse it. So it's not fair for us, and it's a big, big risk. So before, when I was over in China, and somebody would call and accuse me, the first thing I do is look at their website and it says, anybody ever make you mad? Call us and we'll get you money for doing that. Sure. And I would get those people to do that. I'd say, hey, I'm over in Hong Kong, how you want to handle this? And never hear from them again. Now we're back in the United States, we have a giant target on ourselves. And we're still in negotiation about the coffee maker and tea making manufacturing in the States. Our insurance company is still discussing what part they're going to let us do and what part they're not going to cover. So that's why there's nobody making coffee makers in the United States, because it's such a big risk for such a small reward.
Interesting. How does your company use automation? Where does automation impact how you manufacture?
Well, the right level of automation is extremely important. And you've seen our filter production line and being able to automate key parts. Automation versus customization. Automation is critical. I think more is how we design our manufacturing into cellular. So automation, if you're making a lot of the same type of thing, is good. But for us, it's more versatility. So that's why our cellular manufacturing is going to be cellular manufacturing, so we can make quantities of ones as needed. So we standardize the key components and do. Automation's critical, but it's not the end-all solution.
Brian, there's been a lot of discussion nationally about trade and trade tariffs. Has that impacted what you do?
No, that's just the opposite. It's actually a great opportunity for us.
And why is that?
Well, we're talking about here, we bring coffee makers and tea kettles and things from China. If they raise tariffs on it, then the incentive to make it here is even better for us. And we've been losing a trade war for the last 20 years. So for us, it's finally great that we're finally standing up and making a level playing field. I mean, the goal overall is no tariffs, right? Make the playing field flat. And if that's the case, we can compete with any country in the world, just with the right level of innovation and technology.
I'm Nicholas Tracy from Brewista. We're going to do a pour over today. So the first part of it is pre-wetting your filter. You don't have to do this with our filters, but it's just a good habit for baristas to be in, so we recommend it anyways. Pre-wetting kind of gets the papery taste out of the coffee and saves you a little trouble down the road. So once you wet it, it warms up your vessel, and then you can pour it out, and that'll get all the papery taste out of it. This is our ratio scale. So the golden ratio of coffee is 1 to 17 grams. So 1 gram of coffee for every 17 grams of water. Our ratio scale does all the math for you, so you just plug and play really. So when I set this on here, we'll wait 3 seconds and it'll tear. So it'll take it back to 0. When it does that, it gives us a little logo of a coffee bean telling us that it's ready for coffee to be added. So you add your coffee, and then I've got 30.1 grams of coffee in here. So then when I hit ratio, it tells me I need 511.7 grams of water. So when we start, it'll give us a target pace and an actual pace. It'll time the entire brew, so we ideally try to shoot for 2.5 minutes. It'll have a little extra time here at the beginning for what's called the bloom, which is where the grounds release all the CO2 that's been built up inside them. CO2 kind of gives a sour taste to coffee, and a lot of coffee makers will just brew with it anyways, but in allowing the coffee to bloom and get rid of it, you'll have a much more tasty cup after the fact. So then we start the pour, And I usually end up being a little bit behind the target pace because I brew my coffee slow, but that's fine. It's more of a guideline than anything based on SCA standards. This is called a gooseneck kettle, and this particular one has a more tapered end, so you can get a really controlled pour, and what we call a gooseneck handle or a gooseneck tail. And it works better with some people's hands than others. I prefer it because it allows me to apply pressure to the back of my hand rather than like my knuckles. So it allows for a really precise pour.
You're in a global market.
Yep.
You must have global competitors.
Yes.
Give us a
Nobody
sense.
moves as fast as we do.
And why is that? Is that corporate culture?
That's our corporate culture.
Is that you driving that corporate culture?
I think, well, my key role is to set the corporate culture, but we are surrounded with our team members understand the need for speed in the marketplace. We actually have brands competing with our own brands because we want to be the ones to be competing against ourselves and driving our own internal innovation. So some people say, how can you be competing against yourself? But you have to. You have to, especially in a consumer marketplace.
Brian, we've gotten to know you over the last couple of days. It's apparent to us this is your passion, and you bring it to the company.
Well, thank you.
Yeah. What drives you? What drives Brian to do this here in Wyoming?
What drives me to do it is it's just so darn fun. And I get to work with some amazing team members, and you get to watch these people grow and get careers and have families and buy their houses. And whether it's in China or here, I've been working with universities for all my life, and I've got very good friends from the East Coast when I was over there that we still stay in touch with, and I watch them all succeed. What drives me in Wyoming is it's a great place to live. It's a great quality of life. It's windy a lot. We get some crappy weather sometimes, but that's part of the fun of it. I mean, you just never know what's going to happen.
And you don't sleep very often.
I'm blessed that I only need 4 or 5 hours sleep a night.
And you never set an alarm clock.
I've never set an alarm clock in my life. It's my one superpower is whatever I tell myself to wake up, that's the time I'll wake up. And that is why. So I can be in China tomorrow or Europe, and I will be on my exact same time schedule, that local time.
Do you envision a day where all of the manufacturing that you're functioning with in China or in Asia or in other places can be in the United States and can be here maybe in Cheyenne?
Maybe. We're working right now. The key we're looking for is some of the sheet metal, some of the components, step by step. We've got a lot to get back.
Well, Brian Gross, we've had an opportunity now to look and see what Brewista is all about and to visit with you. Thank you so much for joining us.
Well, thank you for your interest. I really appreciate that. I'm glad to share what we do. We love it.